Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Jewelers Academy podcast. My name is Anna Campbell and I'm the community manager for Jewelers Academy. And today I am so fortunate to be able to have a chat with the gorgeous Tori Foster.
Hi.
Hi, Tori. Um, yeah, we wanted to talk to you particularly on the podcast because you have very excitingly opened your own jewelry shop. And so we're going to particularly talk about the things that what no one tells you about opening your own jewelry shop. So some things to consider, some things to avoid maybe as well. But first of all, let's just talk a little bit about you and your background. When did you first discover jewelry making?
I was probably about 14, something like that, early teens, and I got a little beaded bracelet kit in a Christmas stocking. And I loved it. It was a nice, fun activity, and I got more beads and just started messing around with things like that. I did textiles at school, but I did some textile jewellery. One of my teachers gave me a book all about fabric jewellery, and I found it fascinating. And I just sort of played around with things from there. Um, Never really considered working with metal until I did a metal clay class, which you'll love, I'm sure. Um, so we did like 2 days of beading, 2 days of clay, and it just like working with metal had never really crossed my mind until then. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Obviously, metal clay is really it's quite an accessible way of getting into make working with metal. After that, I found a night class, literally like a month or so after I'd done that. There was this night class poster been put up for a class that had been going on for like 5 years. I was like, how have I never come across this before? But I probably wasn't looking for it at the time. So it was every Friday night. We made a ring, we set a stone, we made a slightly fancier ring, and I was hooked, absolutely hooked. Yeah, I think as soon as the stones come out, I was like, oh, this is fantastic. And it's stayed that way ever since, really, hasn't it? Addicted to gemstones. Yes, so, and I did this evening class, like I said, it was Friday night, used to texture a lot of metal if I've had a rough week at work. And we did loads of different things, and they got to a point where we were doing different bits, but it wasn't enough. And so that's when I started looking for another outlet, another way to learn how to do some more skills.
Mm. And then you ended up spending a year
I did.
traveling a long way to continue with your skills. So
Yeah, so the class, the original metal clay class, that was at London Jewellery School. So they'd been on my radar through that. And I got a few emails, probably from you, about the diploma in silver jewellery. It was once a week. On a Tuesday, I went down, and it was like set terms of like real structured learning. And I just thought, like, this is fantastic. This is exactly what I was looking for. There was a few things in there that I'd already done, so like some of the basics, like soaring, some of the stone settings, but then there was loads of stuff that I was just like, oh my gosh, like I have to give this a go. And it was brilliant. Even the things that I'd already done, like the confidence that it gave me with them, um, was amazing. And like getting that feedback from different makers, yeah, it was brilliant. It was a really sort of like a real key point in me wanting to actually have a business out of it, like having that confidence, having those extra skills. That's sort of what led me into starting to sell. I'd sold some of my beaded stuff on Etsy before, but never really any of the metal work. It was always just, well, I've made a kit for my mum or my friends and stuff like that, and ended up with handfuls of rings, but never really thought about selling it. And it was, yeah, a step from there that made me go down that route.
I'm sure lots of people will relate to that story of kind of trying things out and really enjoying it and making for people and friends. And then suddenly it becomes like a critical mass of stuff that you've made. And you're like, what am I going to do with
Yeah.
all this? And I'm still really enjoying doing it. So I want to keep doing it. So, yeah, a lot of people will relate to that. But at that time, were you working full time?
Yes, I was working full time. So like the Tuesday, that was my one of my set days off. I had to have that day off. There was like, no, don't talk to me on that day. Don't ring me for cover. I'm not coming in. Um, that was like a non-negotiable day. Like that was it was a lot. Just having sort of all of that time working, and then that one day of sort of escape, I guess it was.
Yeah, it's great. And I know for a fact that you were traveling quite a long way. It's like hundreds of
Yeah,
miles, isn't it? Like how far is it?
I think it's
150
200
is it?
miles, 150. So from York to London, it's away. It was 2 hours on the train, but it was worth it. It was a nice day
Yeah.
out for myself, and yeah, it was grand.
Yeah, I'm glad. It's interesting. It's nice to hear that because, I think a lot of times we're talking because of Jewelers Academy, we have online courses, but not everyone has that opportunity where they live to. And you were going quite a long way to travel,
Yeah,
but even so, some people still don't even have anything even that
yeah, and
that far away.
there was some classes around me that I looked at, but it was not very clear what I'd learn or if it was going to be like any sort of structure. And the evening class, it didn't have any structure, which was fine because you could just sort of be like, oh, I want to learn this today, or maybe we could try this, and that was absolutely fine. But I wanted to know what I was doing when I was doing it. I just wanted to know the details. So that's I had looked around Yorkshire, but it just wasn't what I wanted, so travel for it.
Yes. And you have also since done some of the online courses with Jewelers Academy too. So
Yes,
you did the fine diploma and the advanced diploma. So
yeah,
what was that experience like?
yeah. So there was a advanced class after the silver diploma in London, which was like 3 weeks intensive, that I desperately wanted to do, but I couldn't afford it. I couldn't get the time off work. I could not have lived in London for the 3 weeks. I stayed over. So I'd always been like sort of pining after that, and um, it was COVID, wasn't it? The fine diploma sort of came about, and I was still looking for something else, like that next level. I still wanted to learn, still wanted to find out new things. And I knew that structure worked for me. Um, Having those sort of set classes, because like I probably could have gone and maybe looked in a book or looked on YouTube or something like that, but I needed that guidance, and I needed that sort of structure, and like, this is your deadline, and this is what we're going to be doing this week. And yeah, I liked the format as to how it worked. So I did the fine diploma. That was a year long, so it was there was an extra term from what I did in the silver. And I did that. I was working nearly full time at the start of it, and then quit. Um, and came to work for Jewelers Academy. Good, so long. And I had intended to have like sort of that set day again. So like Tuesday was going to be my diploma day again, because I knew that worked when I was in the school situation. When I was at home, there's lots of distractions, but I did really enjoy that I could just, I could watch a couple of videos. They were released on a Monday. I could watch those on a Monday, and then I could watch a couple of more the next day. I could really break it down a little bit better, and I could just do a little bit of making here and there. And that actually worked a lot better for me, I think, in the end. I could just sort of dip in and dip out of it, and it does give you that sort of a bit more freedom, I guess, to sort of fit it around things. You don't have to dedicate just one full day. If your days off are very precious, you might not want to give a whole one up, but you could probably find a couple of hours here and there. So that's what I ended up doing. So I did the fine
Mhm.
diploma, and then moved on to the advanced one as well, which was another year long one. Lots more stone setting and all the good things.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when did the opportunity come up for getting a shop? What happened there? Was it something you always wanted to do, or was this something that just, the opportunity came up?
Yes, I always wanted a shop. I had my eye on a couple of places. Um, Sort of when I moved to Pocklington, so that was I've lived here for about 7 years now, and there was a couple of empty units. And I was like, oh, one day I'm gonna have one of those. But I wasn't quite ready. Like I was working. I probably wasn't there quite with my sales, and I hadn't started teaching then either. Um, and I think the teaching part of it is key for me. So I started teaching. Um, I got pretty sick pretty quickly of having to set everything up. So I was originally hiring out a scout hall, which was absolutely fine, but I was having to set it up, pack it down every Sunday. It's a lot of stuff to carry. Like there's
Oh
so
yeah,
many
I know.
things. It's so heavy.
Yeah.
So I probably did a year of that, and I was just like, I really would love to find somewhere. Um, and so that's probably when I started getting a little bit more serious and actually like putting the feelers out. Does anybody know of anywhere? Pocklington's got a few places that are like advertised with estate agents, but the rest of them you've just got to know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. So I found that person. Handily, they came to one of my jewellery classes, so they were very invested in helping me find somewhere. So yeah, I opened at the end of last year, so the sort of end of November. I'd been in for a few months beforehand, so I had been teaching in there because I've got like 2 floors. So upstairs is teaching, downstairs is my studio space and shop space. Upstairs needed a lot less doing, so I just kind of cracked on with that. Got teaching, and then yeah, down here was relying on a few more people, so it took a bit longer.
Mm. And was it a mobile phone shop or something before?
Yeah, it's been everything. Everyone that comes in is like, "Oh, I remember it when it was this." Okay.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a phone shop. Very much
I
looked like a
seem
phone shop. Well,
yeah, I seem to remember lots of like behind the scenes shots of you filling in holes.
yeah, so like the whole thing was covered in slat wall, which they kindly took down for me. They left all the screws on the floor, and then like every couple of centimeters there's a hole. Oh my days. I never want to see filler ever again in my life.
Lovely. Okay. So, shall we get into some of your tips of the things that no one tells you
Yeah.
about setting up a jewelry shop? Some of the kind of more challenging aspects let's talk about, and then also some of the real positives and the lovely ones as well, because I think it's important to
Absolutely.
go through that. So, what's our first thing on our list?
It will not go to plan. Um, even if you are like the most meticulous planner, it's not going to happen. It's good to have some sort of a plan, but you're dealing with other people. You're dealing with well, you might be dealing with tradespeople, stuff like that. It's a bit like grand designs. Someone's not turned up, and this person can't start until next month. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things you can do yourself. You can crack on, absolutely fine. But you probably will be waiting for people, and it just not go to plan. And that's fine. You've just got to take a big deep breath and maybe have a glass of wine, and it'll all be fine.
So, was there anything particular that really knocked you back on your one?
So for me, I was applying for a grant, and they wanted all of the information in a certain format, which I didn't find out until I got the original information. So this was all my sort of my quotes for like my counter and stuff like that, and some security shutters and like sort of bigger purchases. Um, and so there was a lot of back and forth with things like that. And then we needed certain dates when people would start and things like that. Um, that was a bit of a chew on, and eventually I just decided to not bother with the grant. So I probably would have had some slightly more fancier things in here, especially upstairs. I had a bit of money marked out for the workshop, but that's fine. It didn't happen. It's all good. I've got
Hmm.
the things that I desperately need and nothing
Okay.
fancy.
So if somebody was thinking of trying to get funding, then the best thing to do is apply as soon as you can possibly apply.
Yeah, I think
And
for me, like, I desperately wanted to be open for Christmas, and it was just every week was getting closer and closer, and then it was just too close. I just desperately wanted to be open, so I was like, "Okay, we're gonna just do it, and get people booked in, and just go for it."
do it with
So yeah, if
yeah.
people are thinking about funding, there's definitely stuff out there, especially like, well, obviously we're talking in the UK, but like the local sort of councils have opportunities for getting like business expansion and stuff like that. That's what mine was going to be. So definitely do like research that, but find out exactly what they want from you in what format. Really get the details from them. Yeah.
Mhm. Fabulous. All right, what's number 2? What do we need to think of?
Um, the cost. It does obviously cost a certain amount of money. Um, and probably more than you're expecting. So, even just like little things like, so I did loads of craft fairs. I thought I had enough displays, but a 6 foot table compared to a full shop, even with my spare bits, I ended up having to buy a load more display items. So things like that, you might think you've got enough stuff. You probably don't. Um, but even though it's going to cost a lot of money, it's an investment in you and your business, and I would not let that put me off. That was something I really had to keep sort of in the back of my mind when I was, paying for these shutters that cost me an arm and a leg. Um, that it's an investment. It will come back. You will see it again, and you've just, yeah, not got to be scared to invest in yourself.
Okay, I like that. I think both of those points are really like make a plan, but then the plan won't, won't
Yeah,
be
oh,
like,
it's
like
budget
whatever
drawn out,
the
isn't
plan
it?
is, the costing plan or the plan of moving in or whatever. Make the plan, but no,
You have a full Excel spreadsheet budget.
I'm sure you did, Tori. I have no doubt, no doubt.
I might as well have just deleted it to start with.
But I think you do need to just. Whenever we do anything to start with, we're just we're making our best guess, aren't we?
Yeah,
And that's that. And extra things will come up, but we've got to go for it. We've got to just put ourselves out there, give it a go.
yeah. Rein in the trips to IKEA, don't go too often.
Okay. You end up with more display cases and stuff to put somewhere. Fabulous. Okay, what about number 3? What's our next point?
So this is when you are open. When you first get in there, it's incredibly unsettling, and things are going to take you like such a long time to do. So like the first few pieces of jewelry, where is everything?
Okay.
Like where I've been here 6 months, 6 months, 7. I don't know where anything is still. But the first couple of pieces, I think it was like I did it was like a little stone set ring. Where was everything? I thought I'd got all of my like essentials kept safe. I was up and downstairs. I had no idea. I was in boxes. Yeah, no idea. It will take you a little bit of time, and then you'll move everything around again because that's the part of joy of having shops. You can mess about and rearrange. You'll never know where anything is. Um, yeah, a bit unsettling. The other thing is dealing with the general public. They're
Okay.
great. Pay the wage, but they do interrupt you. So if you're planning on making, so like I said, like mine's like half shop, half workspace. So I am getting on with things while I'm here, which is a great use of my time. Um, but people will interrupt you. They'll come
They'll
in and
come try and buy something.
look
I
at
mean, what
things.
are they thinking?
So I do have times when I come in early if I know I've got loads of stuff that I have to concentrate on. And that's my focus time. I get the really important bits out of the way. And then I can just be sort of pottering around and doing bits and bobs that don't really need as much attention. Um, and they'll ask you if you can solder, which like sometimes I have to ask myself. Can I solder? When you've melted that thing for the third time, can I actually solder? I don't know. But yeah, there's people will come in and be like, can you solder? I don't know. Depends on the day. um, so it's, I get a lot of requests for repairs. So a bit of like diversification. I don't think everything, like all of my sales in the shop, they don't necessarily come from things that I've already made, which hadn't quite prepared for. I think I get a lot of repair requests, which isn't my skill set. So having to say no to some things is a learning curve. But also saying yes, like some things are quite fun to work on. And I'm doing things that I probably would never have done, like if I was just at home, like remodels and stuff like that, that I would probably have shied away from.
Okay. I guess that's the case of like when somebody is used to maybe like a high street jeweler and all it is just the jewelry's just there and
Yeah.
you're there and you've got your workshop and things like that. A lot of people don't really know what's involved in making jewelry, and there's also different ways of making jewelry. So you're going to get some of those basic questions
Yeah.
about what you do to
But people
answer.
are so interested as well, in what I'm doing. Like if I am sort of pittering around, they're fascinated. Like what's this for, and what's this for, and like the rolling mill, what's that, and what does that do, and when do you use that? And that's quite a nice segue as well for me. So like with the classes, like oh yes, I do all of this, I make this, and I can teach you how to do it as well. Why don't you book onto a class?
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a great opportunity to talk about that, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And of course, you could just say, "Well, it's just upstairs."
Yeah. Don't have to
So
go far.
you know where to go for the class. Yeah, I like that. That's really cool. Great. Okay, what's next?
So I love having a routine and coming to work.
Right.
So obviously I used to work for Costa, so I used to go to work my whole life. I love actually coming to work and leaving work, and
Yeah.
being able to leave things here. I have actually quite missed that, and I didn't really think I had. But I can, like before, it was in my spare room, which was off my bedroom. So it was just there. It was always just there. And like my teaching stuff was in my dining room. So that was always there. It is nice to just be able to be like, right, I'm done with making now. I can just shut the door, happy days. And it's not actually that far if I need to come back and I'm like desperate to get making again. I can always pop back. But I do have a bit more of a routine. And especially if things like so I've got set days here, so I have to be open most of the time. Like I will give myself a bit of flexibility. I don't have to be open. But if I'm here, I've got those set hours. So that's like I have to be productive while I'm here. I feel like I have to be productive. There are times when I'm just sort of staring out the window, but that's thinking time. It's important too. So I do think I get a lot more done, um, rather than just sort of when I'm sort of coming and going.
I think that's a great point actually that you wouldn't necessarily think about, but I think it is that separation, isn't it? And most of us who are starting out will start out, like you said, at an evening class or something, but then working from somewhere in our home. And then it's really difficult, just like anyone working from home, it can be really difficult to kind of to separate that out. So it's a good benefit when you do have a space to work from that you can kind of just shut the door and go home and go
Yeah, and lock
to somewhere
it.
different now. How
Yeah.
that's not a thing anymore.
I've got a
Um,
spare room as a treat.
yeah, that's no longer a jewelry studio. Amazing,
I've
fabulous.
still
Yeah,
filled it
I
with
like.
creative stuff.
Of course, of course. Right, brilliant. So that's one positive. What else have we got?
Commissions. So I did do a few commissions, but they were quite far out between. Um, Now I just get random people walking past, like, "Oh, can you do this for me?" Yes. Yes, I can. Wedding rings and stuff like that. Can you make these ring bands? Yeah, of course I can. And it's nice having somewhere to actually meet people and actually chat things through. So before it was like coffee shops and stuff like that, which is grand. But it is nice to be able to, sort of come here. These are my things. This is what I have. This is what I can do. Here's some samples. Like everything is here, which is lovely. I can just sort of show them everything. It's probably a bit too much, but that's all good. Um, Everything being here as well is quite nice. It is like my creative haven. All of my sort of jewelry related things are here. Nothing sort of, spread around the house anymore. Um, Everything's here. All of my work is out. It's lovely.
That is nice. It's that opportunity to display everything, isn't it? I think
Yeah,
it's one of those things. It's like we know again, lots of people are selling online, and we can share things on Instagram or website or wherever we're sharing. But it doesn't. It's not quite the same thing as somebody being able to walk past your shop and go, "Oh, that's interesting. What's that?" Or maybe it is that you've just by walking past, it's prompted that thought of like, "Oh, I really wanted to get someone to do this," and it's like here's the opportunity, isn't it? Whereas I think it's not impossible to do if you're just selling online, but I think it's just a different thing, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely. It gets people thinking. I think they're just, having a little wander past and then have a coffee and then come sneaking back. Oh, what can you do for me?
Yeah, love that. Brilliant. Where are we at? I can't even know. Don't know what number we're on now. Is it number
I
9?
think we're nearly there.
Nearly there.
Um, we've talked about the grants, but yeah, finding out what support is available
Mhm.
um, is a great opportunity if you can make the most of it. People are dead keen on supporting local businesses. I think that's still like it was a real big thing in COVID, wasn't it? But I think it's still a thing, especially even like here, definitely. Um, Again, with the sort of like the repair work and the commissions, people have come in and they've been like, "Oh, I thought about going to York, but I knew you were here and I wanted to support you because you're in my town," which is lovely. Hope that continues. And then the
Mhm.
other thing I've got is just about maybe needing to diversify a little bit. It's not every day somebody comes in and buys a piece of jewellery that I've made already, but it might be a repair, it might be a commission, or it might be a class. So there might be different avenues that you need to go down that you'd not really considered, and that like for me was repairs definitely. Like I'd never really want to do repairs that much. So there's a few that I do turn down. Just I'm not interested, or they're not quite in my skill set. But I'll always try and figure something out. Which is
Mm.
a part of the fun of jewellery, isn't it? Like, it's that problem solving. Um, yeah.
It definitely is. And I think it comes back to like you having learned so much, and you've gone through the 3 diplomas that we have at the Jewelers Academy. So I know we're coming into the last few weeks for people who are wanting to enroll if they want to start in September. So what would you say to anyone who's thinking about doing a diploma with us?
I think you've just got to go for it, really. Um, it's been like one of the best things that I've ever done. In sort of taking myself seriously, I think. It was always a hobby before I did this diploma, like the silver diploma. And that's when I really sort of started to believe that I could do something with it. Um, and sort of like seeing the sort of progression. So from the silver diploma, I started selling, and then I started teaching. The fine and the advanced, it just sort of gave me a lot more finesse. I wrote that down, and I thought, I wrote down fitness. No,
Maybe not that.
that's not right. So much more confidence as well. Um, Even like I know I said that before about soldering, but some of the projects in both of them, in the fine and the advanced, there's some really complex soldering things. Um, and like I knew how to solder, but I've really definitely learned how to solder with those two courses, and that set me up for some of the more complicated like repair things that I've taken on. I probably wouldn't have. dared do some little fine jump rings and stuff like that without having tackled the claw earrings in the fine diploma. They definitely taught me how to solder. But I think like it goes back to that, like I said about it costing money to do the shop. But it's investing in yourself, and it's the same thing with the diplomas. Like it was an investment of money to start with, and the time. So like the one where I was traveling down, that was a full day. Like I was out from like 6 in the morning till sometimes 10 at night. Like I was tired. I was a tired girl. But that was the investment that it was making, and it's massively paid off. You'll see it so quickly. Yeah, it's definitely one of the best things I've ever done.
Fabulous. And what about anyone who's really wants to have a shop? What are your thoughts and tips for them? It's your pep
Take
talk.
take your time to find the right place. So don't just be like, oh, empty shop, like brilliant. So for me, I'm not on our high street, which it probably is a little bit of a hindrance for like walking by sales. But that's not the main reason why I need it. I wanted it for the workshops, and the sort of walking past sales are a bit of a bonus. So don't rush into it. Do think about it, but don't be frightened. Um, like Lee was a bit worried about me doing this, and I said to him like, my lease is 18 months. I've got a break clause at 18 months. 18 months is nothing. Like it's absolutely no time at all. Most of it's gone. Half of it's gone, which is terrifying. Like things like that. Like it'll be fine. It will absolutely be fine. And if it's not fine, it's not fine. You do something else. But at least you've given it a go.
Yeah, love that. Thank you so much, Tori. Where can people follow you or find out more about what you do?
The best place is Instagram. So it's at Tori Foster Jewellery. Yeah, you'll see into the shop when I'm having a quiet moment, playing on my phone, and any sort of projects and things that I'm working on. And there's some of my diploma pieces on there as well if you want to see what I did well and struggle with.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Tori. Thank you for joining us from your shop.
No problem at all.
Um, and yeah, I think it's really helpful just to hear, where you can go when you learn and when you learn your jewelry making and what you can do with it, which for you is all of the things.
Yeah,
It's the
just do it
teaching
all.
and the repairs and having a shop and having a workshop. I just love it all. And I think in some ways it's nice to see that you can specialize and you can do different things. I love the teaching, and that's the thing that I do the most. But you can do you can put it all together and find a way of, like you said, about diversifying, which I think is
Yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah, it's your business, isn't it? Like it needs to be what you want it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the
Thank you.
podcast, and we'll see you again next week.